Morning once again. This is Monty from DPL Surveillance Equipment. I'm wiping down my car. Today is Sunday. A nice and bright and perfect environment, at least in Camarillo, California, where I'm watching people go back and forth. I guess they're getting out for the weekend or doing their things on Sunday afternoon, or at least it's almost afternoon. It's 11:30 here a.m. And just a very nice day to get out and do something. Me, myself, I'm fasting and recuperating from a vigorous workout in the gym on Saturday. So between recuperating from that and fasting, I think my body is really going to be in a good position to get off to a good start tomorrow, because I'm not eating anything, just drinking water, and I'm relaxing. At least I'm doing my chores, but that's relaxing as well. But it's not as strenuous as it could be. But the primary thing is to relax and to not eat anything, and just basically take it easy. Just finished wiping down my car. Looks great. This evening, I may go out with some friends, though, dancing. So that's not very strenuous. I don't dance at this place, at least the way I used to dance when I was younger. But it should be fun just to hang out with some friends and have a casual evening of some light dancing and enjoying some music, top 40s or something. Now this particular podcast, we're going to take a look at the automobile, and I'll get into the specifics in a moment. But we're going to take a look at the automobile, and my name is Monty Henry, by the way, and I'm owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. I run a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. We have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent and lay away as well. We have a complete media center, or library of information. That's articles, blogs, podcasts, demonstration videos, you name it. All of them are there on the website. All of that information is free. So if you want to go there and take a look and see whether or not there's anything you want to read about, watch, listen to, etc., and feel free to share it. Your Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media sites. Some of these articles and podcasts are, they have a social emphasis or something like that, so it doesn't hurt. Excuse me. A little bit of noise there. It doesn't hurt to spread the word on some certain social causes or whatever it is. It's something that could help someone else. The topics are varied. They're all over the map. They include, we cover cybersecurity, we cover cryptocurrencies, we cover health and fitness, surveillance and counter-surveillance, of course, economics and finance, anti-terrorist products and technologies are covered as well. Wide range of information, basically. And we've integrated Bitcoin into the shopping cart. So go into the shopping cart, and you crypto millionaires out there, drop some of that Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ethereum or Bcash into our shopping cart and get your favorite spy gadgets. We know a lot of people are early adopters. They love technology, they love gadgets. So you can accumulate your favorite state-of-the-art, law enforcement grade, lifetime guaranteed and warranted spy gadgets. Okay? We don't need to support MasterCard and Visa and American Express and Discover anymore. Now we have an alternative. We have Bitcoin and we have cryptocurrencies. I can send you $1 million or $1 billion. You can send it to me across the street, across the world. It doesn't matter. No intermediaries, no merchant processors that's going to reverse a transaction or allow chargebacks We don't care about disputes anymore. If you have a dispute or you want to do a chargeback in the cryptocurrency space, you contact the merchant, you contact the retailer, and you work it out like adults. We don't need babysitters anymore. We don't need people telling us how to run our businesses, what products can be sold to who, when, and how, and what countries, and under what circumstances, and all of that. We have our own terms and conditions that we came up with on our websites. That's what applies, and that's what's in effect, and that's the agreement. So we're keeping things simple, basically, in the cryptocurrency space, and that's the way it should be. Okay. Besides, the credit card companies are just extracting money and finances from us. They're extracting $70 billion annually from the retailers and merchants of the world, or at least in the United States. And over the world, it's like a lot larger number in terms of what they're taking from us without adding much in the way of value. Our shopping cart and our website, the website itself, has been completely redesigned, optimized for mobile, and should be very easy to use on your smartphone, cell phone, iPad, iPod, or whatever portable device you want to use. Other than that, let's take a look at the specific topic for today. Now, this topic of today is called What Your Car Knows About You. What your car knows about you. Okay, that's the topic. Automakers are figuring out how to monetize drivers' data. Car makers are collecting massive amounts of data from the latest cars on the road. Now they're figuring out how to make money off of it. With millions of cars rolling off dealer lots, with built-in connectivity, auto companies are gaining access to unprecedented amounts of real-time data that could allow them to track everything from where a car is located to how hard it is braking and whether or not the windshield wipers are on. The data is generated by the car's onboard sensors and computers and then stored by the automaker in cloud-based servers. Some new cars have as many as 100 built-in processors that generate data, drawing out data. Automakers have the ability to collect data from various points on the car, pulling information generated by the vehicle's onboard sensors and computers. Already, some car makers are gathering this data to provide feedback to help improve a car's performance, refine features, and alert them to any potential quality problems early on. They're also using it to create new and more personalized services for the drivers. Let's see now. The cloud-based server idea, let's take a look at that individually. If the automakers, we all know they have millions and millions of cars out there on the roads every day with sensors in them, okay? The sensors detect, as you might guess, how much rain is hitting the windshields, how hot it is outside the car or inside the car, how the car is braking, steering left and right, and how fast it's going under certain circumstances, all of this. So the car is one big data sensor, so to speak. And if all our information is going into the cloud, which it is, that has connotations that, are negative and positive. Since I'm a surveillance and security expert, I have to put some emphasis on security. How secure is all of this information going into the cloud? How decentralized is it? Or if it's not decentralized, then it's centralized. And that means there's one honeypot of information. That means the government, that means hackers, that means law enforcement can probably access the cloud. If it's government, you serve a subpoena or you get your own white hat hackers or black hat hackers, whatever you want to call them, that work for the government. If they go into GM's, Ford's, Honda's cloud and come out with a ton of information like the NSA has been doing, that can be an issue. So I think going forward, we're going to have to take a look at the idea. Excuse the noise. It's going to be noise every time I get to a sensitive part. of the podcast. Going to get some noise, so we'll just let it pass. But yeah, when you put information into the cloud like that, you always have to be aware of the fact that somebody's going to want to access it, either law enforcement, hackers, criminals, etc. And we need to make sure we understand how valuable that information is. So I guess at some point, I imagine like when you sit down and sign the paperwork to buy the car, you're probably going to want to take a look at that data privacy agreement in terms of whether or not you're going to opt out. If you're opted in by default, you want to know whether or not you need to opt out. Or if you're opted out by default, then of course you're going to opt in. And I think that's going to be important because as you sit in your car, you're going to be having conversations with your family, friends, loved ones, business partners, etc. And if there's microphones and cameras and every other type of sensor in there, all that information is being collected. Okay? So we need to keep that in mind, how valuable that information is. Already, some car makers are gathering this data to provide feedback or to help improve a car's performance, refine features, and alert them to any potential quality problems early on. I think I read that part. But many car makers have bigger plans, including using the data to craft targeted in-car advertisements or selling it to mapping firms looking to provide more accurate traffic information. Let me repeat that. I'm getting a little bit of noise out here. But many car makers have bigger plans, including using the data to craft targeted in-car advertisements or selling it to mapping firms looking to provide more accurate traffic information. General Motors, Ford Motor Company, and other major car makers are hoping these connected car services will generate new revenue streams that can help them diversify beyond their core business of building and selling cars. While it is still early days, McKinsey & Company estimates monetizing data from connected cars will be worth up to $750 billion by 2030 as more cars are shipped with pre-installed modems and other internet-connected devices. So again, we can see that this is going to be a very lucrative industry going forward. If it's going to be worth $750 billion, then the car makers are going to be interested more in terms of what they can do with the data and how much they can collect and how quickly they can sell it or monetize it. Consumers, just like with the internet, just like with the GDPR, I think the General Data Protection Rules pertaining to Facebook and Google that they're confronted with nowadays, we have to make sure we understand this applies to cars as well, and that going forward, we need to have a GDPR type of rule applied to automobile data because it's just as important. You sit in your cars a lot, and you do a lot of talking, you do a lot of shopping, you do a lot of different things, and a lot of that information is very valuable and it definitely is worth a lot of money. To some extent, the sky is the limit for what could be done with the data, said Kason Grover, Hyundai Motor Company's senior group manager for vehicle technology planning. Hyundai early next year will launch a new program that gathers data from vehicles on driving habits such as how hard a car brakes or the miles it travels in a day, and use it to help owners get discounts on auto insurance. Hyundai says the data is only collected with the owner's permission and shared with the auto insurer as a score rating the driver's performance. Ford, GM, and other car makers are also working with auto insurers to offer discounts based on driving data. I actually think that if this information is so valuable and it's our data, we should get paid for it. Later on in the article, you're going to see that General Motors, I think, is going to be estimating that they can make $150 or between $100 and $150 a year on each and every vehicle out there from the data, selling the data. And I think just like a royalty from a musician or an artist, you typically want to get paid for your information. So I think us consumers at some point, we're going to have to understand this is our data, not General Motors, not Facebook's, not Google's, not Ford's, but this is our data. And if anyone's going to make money from it, it ought to be us. So our information really should be locked by default, and it should be doled out or distributed out to who we want it to be distributed to under what circumstances for whatever particular time frame. And one of the things that we should do is make it a priority for us to monetize it. Okay, it's not the automobile's information, automobile manufacturer's information. They create the automobile for transportation, but it's our data that makes this whole thing valuable in the first place. GM, through its Marketplace app, uses location and other vehicle data to help drivers find parking and schedule service appointments at nearby dealerships. The automaker also uses location data and a vehicle's keyless entry feature to offer in-car delivery of Amazon packages. I'm not quite sure whether or not I want my packages to be placed in my car while I'm out and about or something. That's kind of like makes my car a target for burglars and thieves and such. Anyway, later this year, GM also plans to introduce a new feature that can detect when a vehicle's fuel tank is low and then offer a coupon on the car's display for a discount at a nearby gas station, said Brian Hoagland, a business development director for GCCX, GM's connectivity unit. Retailers then pay GM a fee for steering customers their way. I guess this could be interesting, you know. If we're going to be passing by gas stations, stores, or whatever it is, and if someone wants to, again, if we opt into this type of service and someone wants to offer us a coupon, that's fine. Maybe we can save some money, especially if it's going to be a low-price gas station with relatively good gas or some store that I normally shop at. And as long as I opt in and agree to this, then that's different, okay? Then maybe we can all make some money and save some money. The Marketplace app is currently available in more than 2 million GM vehicles in the United States. That number is expected to expand to 4 million by the year's end. Mr. Hoagland said customers benefiting from sharing the data by having access to these services, but they must opt in first to each new app or feature before it can collect any data. Well, if that's true, then that's not as bad as it could be if you're opted out first and then you opt in later. But something tells me it's going to be the opposite. Ford recently launched a new service that contracts with companies and municipalities to gather data generated by vehicles used in fleets, such as police cars and delivery vans. The service can track fuel consumption and miles traveled, as well as monitoring driver behavior, such as whether the car is speeding or the seatbelt is in use. The automaker then sells the data and analytics to the fleet operators as a service. Okay, let's see. Okay, the data is sold as a service to fleet operators. And then employers determine whether a driver can opt out of the monitoring, a Ford spokesman said. So employers could benefit by this information. If it's going to be cloud-based and GM is going to have control of that data, then I guess an employer would benefit unless they want to set up a cloud-based service themselves. So that may be useful for employers. Let's see, moving right along. Ford is also looking at other ways to monetize vehicle data, estimating that in the longer term, the effort could generate up to $100 per vehicle each year in additional value, said Don Butler, Ford's executive director for connected vehicle and for Ford's connected vehicle and services. This is what I mentioned. Somebody's going to be generating a lot of revenue off our data, and it really should include us, but I don't see that mentioned. So we're going to have to go to their Facebook pages, go to their Twitter pages, go to their corporate websites, talk to manufacturers when we buy these cars about the data and how it's going to be collected and how it's going to be signed off on or not. And then ultimately, we want to make sure that we're participating in this revenue stream. Car companies stress that they get the owner's consent first before gathering any data. In cases where it is collected and provided to third parties, the data is anonymized, meaning it is scrubbed of all personal information and batched together with data from other vehicles to provide a more generalized picture of a car's operations or consumer driving habits. Still, privacy experts say it is not always clear to consumers when they are giving consent. As with other electronic devices, the data disclosures are often buried in the terms and service agreement and described in ways that aren't always clear for consumers to understand. This is usually the key point here. When data is being collected, it needs to be separated. That part of the agreement, or that part of the terms and conditions, it needs to be separated, so to speak, from everything else that you're signing. And there should be clear, color-coded warnings that say, look, we're collecting your data, we want your data, this is your data, not our data, we want your permission. And I imagine the car really should notify us every month or so on some predetermined schedule that we choose that reminds us to allow that data to be shared by whoever wants it and needs it. And that could be an alert that comes up on your dashboard, on your cell phone or something, so that the releasing of the data expires with the people who want it. And then once we resubmit that information or let it to continue to be shared, then that's what we do, right? So just like with the GDPR with Google and Facebook, you give permission for a certain amount of time, and after it expires, then you have to approve of it again for those individuals or companies that want it. Let's see. The auto industry is in many ways following the lead of the tech sector, where companies collect the user data via mobile phone usage and then use it to either improve their own services or to sell it to third-party app developers and marketers. A lot of the reason an app or service in a car may be free is because you're paying with your data, says Mark Boyages, an analyst with IHS Markit, who leads the firm's connected car research. Today, automakers can pull hundreds of data points from the car, including everything from the odometer reading and blinker status to the tire pressure level. It's really like your cell phone, but it is bigger and on wheels, said Lisa Joy Rossiter of Autonomo, an Israeli-based startup that works with automakers to process and license vehicle data. Again, this can't be stressed enough. The car is like a cell phone, but only bigger, and it's on wheels, okay? Autonomo's business model is built around it, taking car maker-provided data, cleaning it up so it's easier to use and read, and then licensing it to third parties such as app developers, insurance companies, and municipalities. All the data is stripped of any personal information. Automakers then collect the licensing revenue, with Autonomo getting a cut. So again, you guys remember, automakers, third-party companies like Autonomo, etc., everyone's got to be making a lot of money off of you, okay? We need to make sure that we force these guys to include us. Not only should we be concerned about the security of the data, and maybe it could be put on the blockchain or something and decentralized so that all of the data is not in one big honeypot, but it's distributed all over the place in a manner that makes it impossible to go to one location and hack it for like 1 billion records. If my information is separate and yours is separate and I'm under control of mine and you're under control of yours, then a hacker will have to go through 9 billion different places to get any reasonable amount of data versus going to one place like General Motors or one place like Amazon Web Services or something and hacking into there and getting it. And this includes law enforcement and government, okay? The firm is one of a number that have emerged in recent years to serve as a marketplace for vehicle data. Other startups include UK-based Wejo WEJO Limited and Germany's Caruso GmbH. One application the auto industry is exploring is providing windshield wiper data to weather service providers to more accurately track rainstorm patterns. Car makers also see potential in using the vehicle's onboard cameras and sensors to provide mapping firms with more accurate roadway information as well as real-time data and traffic patterns, analysts say. So again, just be aware that the cameras, the microphones, the various sensors are all going to be used as part of this data collection protocol. And usually, the more data you get, the more valuable it is when you sell it. If I'm having a conversation and Siri overhears it, or Apple's Siri, Amazon's Echo, or Google's, I forget what it's called, voice assistant program, that they collected that audio, then that's valuable, right? So this is no different. So keep that in mind, okay? Hyundai's Mr. Grover said eventually car companies will use the data for more predictive applications such as learning the driver's habits and making route suggestions. Over time, we will know where you usually go for coffee and know what your commute is. Mr. Grover said if the car detects a traffic jam along the way, it can suggest an alternative route, he said. Once the vehicle is autonomous, it will use all the same data to make its own decisions. I think this is important to understand the implications of this. We're feeding data into one big giant AI cloud-based system, and as these systems become more smarter and smarter, and as they gather more and more information, the autonomous cars of the future, the autonomous planes and drones and all these things are going to use this information to do the things that they need to do. Once you plunk yourself down in that autonomous Uber car or flying car or something, you'll press a button and download all your personal information in there temporarily, just like loading a rental car's address book with your address book. I mean, once you download your address book into your rental car's database in the rental car things, now you can make phone calls, right? Now you can call people, they can call you, and it'll show up on the screen or whatever. And then after you get through renting that car, you delete it, right? And hopefully it's completely deleted. Same thing will apply to autonomous vehicles and flying vehicles, drones, whatever. And you'll press a button, download all your personal information. It'll know where you shop, where you go, how cold or hot you like it inside, and all these are various other personalized things. And then hopefully when you are no longer using it, press another button or something, and hopefully your information will be deleted. But there's nothing wrong with us participating in the data sharing or in the securing of the information as well. So, but yeah, there's another practical application for this stuff. If you know, like, if you're anything like me and my wife, sometimes we think we're going the shortest route and the quickest route or something, or the route that saves the most gas, and you're not. And if our data is being collected by the car and it's understanding where we go, where we travel, how often or something, maybe it can occasionally come up with better routes and make suggestions, and then we could just agree or not agree, versus doing a whole lot of time searching and experimenting as we drive around to see what routes are quicker or easier or faster or save more gas or something. Anyway, we're going to wrap up this session, and as I like to say at the conclusion of every podcast, keep your eyes and ears open and stay safe out there, okay? Anyway, we'll talk later. Bye.